He's like, I'm Peril, and this apple is not Peril, but I want to be like Apple. I must be like Apple. Should I eat Apple? Oh no, what is that?
This to me is already weird because like he's like on his own, like purposefully. But he also seems like he's not necessarily lost. Like he's genuinely looking for something. Like he's going in a general direction.
Well, I mean, he still seems to have some sort of, it almost feels like unconsciously retained memory.
What? Oh, she's deceiving. Yep,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
I had
Oh, it's the kid from math class.
the angry kid. That was cool.
What I want to know is how is she keeping the thing just slightly on the half of her head?
They're gonna be like, you're Sauron, bro.
Tulil men noritas. Haru sauron.
Oh my god! What? What?
But why?
What?
This is like one of those thumbnail moments.
6 days ago, we rode without rest.
It's like now he seems wounded. Now he seems wounded. Do we all remember the end of the last episode when he's fresh wound and he's like, and now he's like, like, bro.
It makes sense that he's a lot worse now. He's been riding for miles.
I had hoped to do the same for Middle Earth.
This is a peculiar or.
He's very curious.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
By the way, are you Celebrimbor?
Call it a gift.
I feel like he's Sauron now. What is the show doing to me?
Granting him the immortality in stone.
I keep forgetting this guy's name, so I'm gonna call him Haman.
Lord Celebrimbor, you are hereby commanded to disband the city and return to Lindon immediately.
He's still gonna do it though. He's still gonna do it. He's gonna F
I'm
you.
like, all that time and resource, you finally got the thing, and you're like, oh, this ain't what I wanted. Not tear it all down. Like, what?
Where did you hear them?
I was conferring with my smiths, I think.
Dang, this is like the first scene ever where it's almost like with Bilbo when he's a little bit possessed with the ring. That's the total vibe I'm getting. I really like that. He's already getting manipulated.
Go. Speak of this to no one.
I love her dress.
Bro, she's always looking fly, man.
The heat and cold.
In Rune, you shall learn to command them all.
Part of me feels like it's a misdirection, though.
They're winding up the theme. I can hear it.
Like they're trying to bait him into being bad.
What, they got batarangs? What the hell is that? I'm sorry, that was really funny.
What have they done to you?
They showed me what I am.
I know who I am.
Because I know whose I am.
From shadow you came. To shadow I bid you return.
Oh, speaking with authority.
Is the other. The east. He is.
I'm good.
Say it! Okay, that wasn't needed.
What?
That line was not needed. Good. Starts with the letter G. Gandalf starts with the letter G.
It just comes on the screen. Title comes on the screen. Gandalf.
I'm gonna break all of my computers if that happens. Every single one.
Supposing that's the trouble. Supposing we've been using too much force.
Now Halbrand is going to say the best line of the show. I'm bad.
I'm no good.
Come, see for yourself.
Not until you tell me who you are.
Oh. Bro, what's going on? Taking it back when she was a kid. Literally the same outfit, too.
Look at me.
Galadriel,
To be honest, I don't quite know what what that was about, what she thought was going to happen.
Her pride can get in the way.
Safe. Or rule.
I see no different.
Yeah, exactly. Why not both?
I like that line. I really like that. I see no difference.
Because of you!
And you will die because of me!
Bruh.
That was crazy.
Bimbo. Where is he?
Workshop. You'll almost be finished by now.
How about you tell your homie right now, hey, yo, I was in here because homeboy put me in a genjutsu. He's Sauron, all right? Like, like.
War has come, but to discover the rest, I know I must go to Rune.
I love it. He can talk English thoroughly.
After like 8 hours.
I wonder if like the staff or something like kind of brought something out of him or connected to him wherever he's, Rune. I think that's what he said, where he's from.
Alone, it's just a journey. No adventures. They must be shared.
With linguistics like that, I am baffled by him just being like, I'm good.
Honestly, the more that he talks, he's kind of pulling off a young Gandalf, like a younger Ian McKellen.
Yeah, like he has the look for it.
Mm-hmm.
And a Harfoot without manners is as light to get far in life as a square.
I love the Harfoots. I love them.
I gotta get out of this scene, man. I'm like, bro, I'm not trying to cry right now. This is crazy.
I'm good.
Eleanor Brandyfoot. Always follow your nose.
Got that from a Fruit Loops box. I straight up thought that door was closing behind her for a sec.
That's cool, though, that at least for this show, I don't know the lore at all with like what material the ring was made, but that is really cool. True creation requires sacrifice. That was good.
I get it.
Come on, man. That was kind of cool.
It's creative.
Yeah, like that. I respect that.
So she didn't end up telling him.
Bro, what's he gonna do? What's he gonna do? What's he gonna do? It's beautiful.
It's so crazy because it does seem like they all are under like some weird spell. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, look at her face.
Like, yeah.
Even
like,
him, he's like, I'm on a
look.
mission and I'm gonna say something.
This is the second time we are jib panning out from the rings.
Three rings for the elven kings.
I kind of like this song. I'm not gonna lie.
This whole season, so there was a lot of money that went into like the rights. Like it was $250 million alone, apparently, for them to even secure the rights. But I'm reading. I guess I could check more places to make sure it's like true, but the production budget by itself was $465 million. Which puts it on average at approximately, let's see, when spread over 8 episodes, it results in a cost per episode of $58.1 million. Do you guys feel like any episode by itself looks like $60 million?
Honestly, with some of the shots that I've seen, like even there were shots like in this episode where I was kind of honestly looking for almost the flaws in the quality.
Yeah.
And especially like I feel like water, I don't know why, but water in certain like shows and films can just look janky.
Yeah,
Can just
it
look
does.
so like awkward and be like, that's a green screen. And even though obviously it was CGI water, the scene specifically with Halbrand and Galadriel,
Where
it
she
looks
was
so
tying the rope to nothing.
Uh,
That
that scene, but with this episode, I mean, when he takes her back to that location, I was like waiting for the okay, let's see if this show's gonna look like crap, and it didn't. It looks so damn good, and I feel like those scenes are really hard for at least for me to like pull me in and believe the environment,
Yeah.
and I believed it. I could see it cost that much. I even saw something. I read something just now where it could be like 90 million. Rumors are that this first season cost $500 million. That's as much as Infinity War and Endgame combined.
yeah. So production budget was 465 million.
That's crazy.
The rights were 250. So if you put the rights, if you put the total, the 250 million, the 465 million together, they're saying that per episode it equates to 89.4 million per episode.
That's insane.
That's
and
bonkers.
That to me is the reason why I'm upset that they didn't already start filming season 2. Like they're doing it now, but for a show that's gonna take time, because without a doubt, even if this show was crap and people still would have probably seen it, and I think the viewership was actually pretty strong with the show. Yeah. Obviously, often, people either really enjoy it or they're like trashing it for being woke, or just not good.
I don't see
that. But then there's genuine fans. I don't either. I personally, I do not.
Elves equal woke. I don't know where that comes from.
I honestly think it's just childish men complaining. But I do understand there are some fans out there that obviously it's not entirely true to the lore. There's certain rights they have, but obviously it's an adaptation, so they're gonna create their own stuff.
Is it lore canon that all elves are white? Is that canonical? I don't know. I'm genuinely asking. No idea.
I don't know. Well, I heard that I thought I read that Harfoots are of darker skin. I thought I heard or read that somewhere. So when people were complaining about like, oh, this is inaccurate, I'm like, well, actually, if you read, you so-called fan, then you would actually kind of appreciate it. But don't take my words for it. I'm not reading the Silmarillion or whatever that gets called every day and studying its words. Silmarillion. But yeah, the show-wise, the budget's insane. To me, it looks like it is the most expensive show up to that caliber of price. And yeah, to me, it's just surprising that they didn't already just gun-ho go for season 2 like months ago. Because irregardless of the show getting bad reviews or people not liking it, they would still go for a season 2 because they spent $750 million essentially already. And they're going to be spending more for season 2.
Well, I mean, they started shooting season 2 before season 1 was even done airing, so I think they kind of have gone for it.
No. Well, typically, yeah, they do. But like for a show like this, with all that's on the line, I feel like they kind of, I don't know. And well, especially with the comments of the showrunner saying it's going to take years, I think they risk people losing interest. And now, granted, years to them could mean 2 years. I feel like 2 years at the most. You can't make people wait 3 years for a freaking season 2. That's just, to me, that's not common.
I mean, Lord of the Rings, they only did 1 year between each. I mean, they shot them all at the same time, basically. But.
Exactly. That's the thing. And with season 1, I understood it took 18 months to film, but that was COVID. They literally started in like February or March of 2020. And then they ended in 2021 of August. That's a long time.
See, I'm interested in seeing the rest of the show, but what I'm not interested in is being 43 years old when it ends.
Yeah.
It's going to take time.
That does not interest me.
Yeah.
With the costs that are like built into the show, I'm curious as to like, I think that one thing that the money went to was consistency. Like when we talk about like the CGI like we had that consistency that we could lean on of like
Mm.
for me, the moment where I was like, oh, okay, was with I think it was with Aaron Deer. It like because I think he was like in a tunnel or something, and then like water started going through it.
Yeah.
It was like underground. That might have been like the second episode, like the first or second episode. And that's when I was like, oh, okay. Like, because once you see stuff like that, like, you know, like really crazy, like water simulations that don't look really crazy, you know, that just behave like water, is then I'm like, okay. And then we see it time and time again. Of course, that one place, Numenor, which is obviously like 97% CGI, if not like 99% CGI, is like, you know, still beautiful. It wasn't CGI in such a way where it's like, you know, Mark Ruffalo's floating head in the
like,
Hulkbuster.
It's not like garish.
Yeah. So, you know, that's when it's like, oh, okay, like we're in a fantasy world, but it doesn't mean we're in a jank world. You know,
Yeah.
like flashbacks, all that stuff. Like I feel like that's what it one thing that it provided for was consistency.
Oh yeah.
Because it seems like when it came to like some of the Marvel films or whatever else, you have to find ways to cut budget. Like that's just it. Because like when it comes to production, everything is always going to go longer. Things are going to have to get cut. Things are going to cost more. Like that's just always how it is. Like it's a rolling hill of dung. And as you go through the production process, things typically can only get worse. Like they don't get better. So like even if you have like a 10 script, you know, like more than likely once you get the production, maybe it ends up a 9 or an 8, you know, if you do really well. And by the time it goes through post, you know, hopefully it'll still be around that. But if, you know, like that runtime is a bit too much, then you'll get even less, you know, maybe 8, maybe a 7, kind of thing. So like, I think that the money provided time for that consistency that we saw throughout the entire thing. With some of the things that might have been a little bit more costly to deal with. And then I'm also really curious about, especially knowing that this is like an Amazon back thing, is what technology they were developing and using to get this show done.
Oh, it's going to be a standard for shows to be like, hey, what are we not doing?
Because I don't
consistency.
Because I can't imagine, because like you're saying, Tim, like even though yes, it is beautiful and like things are consistent, like the idea of this being like, you know, however much you said, like with the rights built in, like 89.1 million, something crazy like that. Like if all the costs are rolled together per episode, it's like how?
So
unless
without it comes out to about 58.1, which is probably the better number to go by still, but
yeah, but it's still insane. So for me, like again,
Game of Thrones was 30 million episodes. Think about that. Game of Thrones was 30 million. This is 3 times.
Yeah.
Or no, 2 times as big as like what? Like they added 2 more to that amount. I'm like, how?
That's why for me, when I'm like, okay, well, where is that going? And because, and that's why to me, it points to tech and potentially new production things that were being worked out or done or something like of that nature, especially if we are dealing with Amazon, you know, because we got to see, you know, the volume being developed, you know, and so we have that technology, which, you know, costs God knows how much, to develop and to get it to look the way that it does. And now that's becoming a thing that's being used. I'm really wondering what it was that they developed, because I know there's no shot that like all that cost that for just a standard like industry way of shooting. that really wouldn't make much sense to me. And it like, yeah. So that is my sneaking suspicion is that there were certain technological costs that rolled into this. It's like the same thing of like when the iPhone came out, like with that home button, and it was like super expensive and everyone was like really mad. And it was just because like they were charging so much for that piece of glass. But the reason for that was so that they can like uh uh basically justify the cost of mining more of that so that then they could use it for the entire screen. And that's kind of what this feels like to me, potentially. I could be completely wrong. This could be a complete, like, crackhead theory. But, like, that's kind of what this feels like to me. That's oftentimes how technology goes and, like, develops. And Amazon likes to, like, dominate and destroy and conquer and chew up the bones of his enemies. So I feel like it would make sense to me that they would be working on something to rival what's going on in Disneyland, as it were, and working to build up their own space in their own stake. Because there's like it's a nuclear arms race between all these providers putting out original content and stuff like that, which a lot of them are written by algorithms, which is why some of them are super weird and don't make sense. I didn't know that until I started talking with some of my instructors, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we work in the industry. Like a lot of these like movies and stuff are getting written by algorithms, and writers just go back in and like tweak some stuff here and there. That's why the plots are weird and certain things don't make sense." And I was like, what?" But yeah. So it would make sense to me if like all that money or like a lot of that money went into new procedures, them working through a lot of stuff, them having to like burn a lot of money in development, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, let's just talk about the episode.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's start with Tim then. Tim, what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on the finale of season 1, Rings of Power?
I think as a whole, this season was like fine. Hardcore enthusiasts are gonna have, I think, a lot of issues with it. And I think this episode in particular is gonna give Game of Thrones fans some PTSD. It is. Like, have you guys seen that show all the way through?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
But I had friends that did.
4K.
So,
I love.
Not sure I've ever met. I'm not sure I've ever met someone who willingly gave money to be knowingly disappointed in 4K. But good on you.
Bro, it's still, even though it has a very bad and rushed ending, I love that show. I know it gets a lot of crap for season 8, but there are some things that I kind of appreciate in season 8.
On a technical level, a lot of season 8 was very good.
Oh yeah, except for
it had some good story.
Night battle,
but
the night battle was just terrible.
Just a lot of characters just kind of seemed to be like, brain, I don't need this anymore. It's just very strange. It was not. It was inconsistent. What they were trying to do, I think, in the interviews, they said something about like, oh, we wanted to subvert expectations. And this episode tried to do that and then did what everybody thought it was going to do anyway. And it didn't like the rush to find out who Sauron was. Like, it didn't have to be a rush. It didn't, like, we have 4 more years of this show, and we know that he lives. So I don't know what the rush is to find out who he is. Throwing out there the idea that the stranger could be Sauron was such a strange move to me, because that move didn't feel like it was meant to serve the story or push it forward. as much as it was meant for all of us to be like, what? Whoa! Like, it felt like it was to try to like surprise us instead of actually be like more meaningful. And the show seems to try to justify that by having the conflict with Sauron's followers be the catalyst that kind of awakens the wizard within. But just kind of trying to throw that at us, it felt like it was more to surprise people than it was to push things forward. Because you have a pen and a piece of paper to write whatever you want, which, let's be clear, for the most part, they are. And to write whatever you want. So your imagination's the limit. And when your imagination is the limit, I'm just hoping for something a little different than good. And which that was a bit of a moment for me where I was like, well, like there's a million different poetic Tolkienian ways that you could say, by the way, I'm a good guy. Eat. But you should bleep it. Bleeps are funnier than swears. They are. Bleeps are just funnier than swears.
I was trying to remember.
Yeah, right. Jack's like, I don't watch it till I'm done editing.
I'm like unfiltered. I'm like, oh shoot, it's already posted. Crap.
I guess the reason I find myself harping on that line a little bit is because it's supposed to be the definitive moment where we know we are safe with this character. And the line to throw that out there was him literally saying, check it out, I'm a good guy. Like, okay, I don't know. I am of the light. I don't know, something, anything. I was born of the stars and their light is in me. I don't know, just anything. But they stuck with, I'm good. Like, something someone says when you get past a bread bowl when you're full. I'm good. It was just real weird. Yeah, the Balrog was a tease for season 2, which is interesting. Yeah. I thought they were going to do more with it.
Same here. Yeah.
Durin was completely out of this episode. Peace out. I was doing a bit of reading while we were watching the episode, and for people who actually are aware of like all the canon and all of this and all of that, seeing they probably figured out who Halbrand was before we did, because there's stuff about Sauron assisting in the creation of the rings and having like befriended some elves and aiding them for a time. So that all the hardcore fans watching it probably put it together before the rest of us did. We all just suspected. I guess I'm a little bit confused about like. So did Halbrand just go undercover solely to try to get Galadriel? Is that what all that was? Is that all he wanted?
I think he knows what's at stake with her. This is just my theory, just throwing out there. I have no idea for sure. Obviously, we'll have more seasons to come. I feel like, at least in this Lord of the Rings series, I feel like the idea of, like, he genuinely wanted her to be at his side because he sees kind of like the power in her or her true capabilities.
Yeah. Well, when he's talking to her, saying like, I would have you as a queen, a this, a that, dark and terrible, whatever all he says, it is, I don't think it was word for word, but there's a part in Fellowship of the Ring where Frodo offers Galadriel the ring and then she turns into a photo negative and starts yelling.
Yeah.
She goes crazy.
She's saying almost the same thing. That quote was almost the same. She says, rather than a Dark Lord, you would have a queen terrible and beautiful as the dawn. Something like, it was real close to being the same thing. So they were rehashing that, and that felt pretty intentional. I think the season as a whole was fine. This episode just, I think it spoon-fed me just a little too much. I think it told a bit more than it should have shown. Like, for me, they didn't have to say the word wizard for me to know who he was. They didn't have to have him say, I'm good, to tell me who he was. When he took up the staff, you suspect it. And when all the villains get, like, I don't know, just completely blasted and turned into, like, moths, that, to me, that was the definitive, like, I know who this is.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'm looking at Lord of the Rings, and I'm like, oh yeah, he straight up talks to one. Like, he straight up snatches it out of the air, whispers to it, and sends it off. I'm assuming to, you know, go tell the eagle to go pick him up. But, because that was when Saruman threw him to the top of the tower in Fellowship.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I mean, to me, like, that was like a nice visual confirmation, not just that this was a hero, but of who he was. Like, I was like, oh, this is straight up Gandalf. And I didn't need the spoon feed, I'm good. I didn't need them to say, you're a wizard, Harry. I didn't need that. There was nothing that was spoon fed to me as egregiously as Mordor was. That's still at the top of the spoon feed violations list of the season, for sure. Still kind of confused about why Adar is saying he killed Sauron. Don't totally know what that means. I don't know why that seems to remain unclear. Are we supposed to believe that Sauron is some sort of, like, he jumps from host to host? Because I don't recall that being a thing ever.
I feel like, at least in this version, to me, I feel like he's like different manifestations, like almost a different, like, kind of like when Gandalf says he's had something amount of lifetimes. I forget which. I don't know if it was Two Towers he said that, where he was basically confirming that he was super freaking ancient and he's been here for so long. And obviously this is Gandalf coming back as a different form. I feel like that was the same thing with Halbrand. I feel like Adar and him are really enemies because he kind of confirmed that. He said, we both have a common enemy. And obviously Adar is like, I don't know who the frick you are, which obviously means he had a very different appearance. Yeah. And I think this is just him choosing, kind of like in the video games, the Shadow of
Mordor.
Shadow of War.
Shadow of War, yeah, where he's like freaking bad like freaking giant dude with the sickest armor ever, and then he's like, I am an elf. Hello. I love that. I think that's great. I love how he's able to change like his appearance. And with this, I feel like that's the same thing. And shoot, he might even have a different identity in season 2. He might. I don't know. But at least if I had to throw a theory, I feel like he has a new appearance with each different lifetime that he has. And that's why he doesn't recognize Adar that's why Adar doesn't recognize him.
Lifetimes, though. Like, he doesn't.
He doesn't?
No, he doesn't have, like, he doesn't, like, live a lifetime, die, and get reincarnated. Like, he's just old. He's just old.
Well, then maybe he faked his death, because that's the only other thing then. Maybe he faked his death and slipped away, you know?
Yeah.
That could be an explanation if it's not the reincarnated, like, theory that I'm having, where it's like, oh, he's just a new form. It's a new body. Then that's probably, he's just deceiving him. He made it look like he killed him. But then at the same time, I'm like, why don't you just kill him then? Like, why didn't you just kill Adar then if you knew that you could? I don't know, Sauron. He's the wise one, supposedly. I'd be curious to see how they're going to play out Halbrand in season 2. Now that he's at Mordor, is he going to like try to deceive Adar or try to work with him? Or is he going to kill him and overthrow him and be like, I'm in charge here now. Bow down to me.
Adar was pretty vacant in this episode too. So
Well, they obviously, I feel like they ended his arc kind of in episode 7 with that, obviously, Mordor. And I feel like Durin and the wife and not the prince, the king with the Balrog, I feel like it makes kind of sense with where they ended it. And to me at least, I think it's a satisfying, now looking at the bigger picture, I think it's a satisfying ending for until season 2, where the wife and him are going to be like, F you, dad and father-in-law, we're going to take this kingdom and get all the mithril and help my brother in arms. So
yeah, like
I sorely missed him though. I sorely missed Durin.
If you take the Lord of the Rings and the Bible, basically Sauron is like the equivalent to like whoever Lucifer's right hand would be, is basically who he is.
Right.
Because Morgoth was like the big bad. Sauron, I don't think ever had another name that he was known by, but it does, at least what I'm reading here on normal Wikipedia, is that when he worked with the elves, he assumed a fair appearance. So I don't know if that means he's like a shapeshifter or what, but I mean, he doesn't like live a life, die, and come back, live a life, die, and come back. He's old, ancient, really. He was like one of the original like spirits created by the supreme being. Like he's hyper old. He's like old as time, more or less. Morgoth, the being above him, the Lucifer equivalent, Luciferian equivalent, was also known as Melkor. So he kind of had a couple of names going, but I don't see anything showing that Sauron was ever anything else. I guess, I don't know, playing it fast and loose with a character as pivotal as Sauron is just strange to me, because I didn't need him to be more than he already was. But that being said, the fact that it is canonical that he befriended elven smiths and counseled them in arts and magic. With Sauron's assistance, the elven smiths forged the Ring of Power. So that is something he actually did do. So I mean, there's still obviously more territory that they can cover. But this season, I mean, it's fine. I'll still watch. I'll keep watching. I don't like the idea of being 43 years old when the show does not sound great. But yeah, just some things felt a little spoon-fed that really didn't need to be. Like, if I would be marketing for people to watch Lord of the Rings before they watch this show on purpose, honestly, because that way, you know, you don't have to spoon feed your audience as much, because that kind of feels like that's part of the problem, is they're like, well, we got to make this for people who've never seen Lord of the Rings. But there's a ton of stuff in the show that if you've seen Lord of the Rings, you're like, oh, I get it. That's cool. And then all the really pivotal stuff is just like put on the spoon and just open wide. Just like airplane spoon fed into my mouth. And I'm like, but we've been eating like normal for a while. Why are we doing this now? So, I mean, yeah, I think the pacing in this episode was better. Like, I don't remember there being any scenes where I'm like, we just did this. I think teasing the Balrog at all was... It probably could have been left on the cutting room floor, honestly. Like, I think they did it to draw viewers. It didn't need to happen. The one shot that they teased him with is the one shot he's in for the entire season.
Yeah, that's where I agree with you. I think they Either that, or they just didn't need to put him in any of the marketing. Just let it be a complete surprise.
I think it was for views because
Balrog.
the design of that thing is incredible. Like the Balrog design is sick.
It's awesome.
It is probably one of the coolest creature designs I've seen for any movie ever. The thing is terrifying, imposing, and at the same time, I'm like, thing's awesome. I want to ride it, you know? Like,
yeah, no, I agree with you, man. I think they could have left that on the cutting room floor for season 2, but it is a show where they have to tease things. I understand that. I still thought it was cool seeing him, and then also in a flashback at the creation of Mithril. That was an awesome sequence as well. But they should have just left him out of the trailers. I feel like if they wanted to keep that scene,
I think it was to pull views in.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I
it
mean,
definitely was.
It's kind of a surefire way to do it because it just looks so damn cool.
Well, and it was the coolest thing. It's one of the coolest things in the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
It is,
but
for sure.
I think I'm kind of like, I feel like I mostly agree with what you were saying, but I'm gonna save my thoughts for the end. Richard, what did you think about this? Oh wait, sorry. Before you do, last thing, Tim. Now we can do this if you feel comfortable.
Oh no.
What is your score for this season? If you just had to give it a score.
It would probably be in like the light 7, something like that, like a light 7. It's
solid. Yeah.
I think the show is solid. It plays a little fast and loose, and I guess the thing is like, okay, if you're gonna play fast and loose with the canon or with the lore, don't let it drag and don't let it be repetitious. Like, you have control of the record, don't let the record skip. And the record does skip on more than a few occasions. And I just think it's weird for that to happen when you have that much creative control over a show. You pay $250 million to release a record that skips. For the rights to a record that skips. That's just a really weird choice to make to me. Because with a show with that much green packed behind it, with that much money put into it, I can't help but expect, like, and I don't think the writing was bad, but I don't think it was like top tier either. It sometimes I was like, oh, that was a good quote. That's a good line. I like that. That's very poetic. And sometimes I was like, that was like
CW type ish.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah. It was kind of CW ish and a little bit like, oh, CW read one Shakespeare book one time in high school and thought this is how it went. Like,
I am good. No, even with the cool accent, bro, it still sounds
I am the goodeth.
Really weird. I am the goodeth. Honestly, I would have taken that. I am the goodeth. Honestly, I feel like I don't want to give my score yet, but I'm kind of in the same vein.
I think yours will be higher than mine.
Potentially, because honestly, I'm kind of still like, right now as we're talking, I'm like just downloading everything that I've watched, literally episodes 1 through 8.
I haven't watched any episode a second time. None of them.
Really?
None. No. I'm just not really like that. Like, a show's got to be... I think the only thing I can think of in recent memory that I watched for the first time and then a second time really close together was Parks and Rec, like 5 years ago.
That show and The Office for me, I can watch any day. Parks and Rec for sure too. I love that show.
Both shows are great. I do, for me, Parks and Rec was like just, it was a bit better, honestly, I think.
I respect that. It's a good show. They're both great for their own different characters.
Yeah,
and
sure.
It's just, I just love Steve Carell. That's just me though. He's one of the greatest comedians out there next to Will Ferrell, in my opinion. But Richard, what are your thoughts of season 1, this finale, halbrand? Gandalf, like everything, dude. Like, give me the rundown. Give me your raw thoughts. Give it to me raw. Give me the meat and give it to me raw.
Right.
The words
Yeah.
of Durin.
Yeah. I will say that. I will say, starting with this episode, this was a really fun episode for me, personally. Just because, like, there's a lot going on. I feel like there were better ways to do certain things. I say better ways. There were other ways to do certain things to where some of these arcs felt a little more we felt like we got a little bit more of a payoff in them. And it also made some arcs feel like, oh wait, so we're just the last time that we saw them, like in the previous episode, was like the last time that we're gonna see them for the next couple of years. Oh, okay. Or maybe we will or won't see them again, kind of thing. So I mean, there were some spots like that. Yeah, as an episode in and of itself, in a vacuum, yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. There's some really emotional moments. There were some moments that, like, I know weren't supposed to be funny, but they were hysterical to me. And so it gets a lot of brownie points.
The foot stab. The foot stab really got me.
Yeah.
Really got me.
That was great. You know what I mean? The I'm good. That was crazy. That one really got me.
It's such a weird medium. I'm like, I hate it, but I also love it.
You think I'm a bad guy? Check this shit out.
Yeah.
Boom,
It's
I'm
like
good.
so that was a huge one. I like that we finally got to see him talk and, like, be a being. Like, that's all I've been screaming about the past, like, 4 episodes is like, yo, please, can we see just something from him? And, like, we finally got that. So, like, in a vacuum, like, this episode was great because we were able to see this character actually develop and blossom and come into their own, and to assume themselves and their position, in this world. And we also got to see that same thing, but kind of in the inverse, someone who had actually been actively deceiving everyone, be forced out of the shadows, to be known. So I thought that was really cool that we were able to see that in this episode. I think there were some weird things with Galadriel not telling everyone, like, yo, that was just straight up Sauron. However, if I'm looking at it in the context, I guess, of, like, the entire show and the way that they're trying to set up her character and her internal struggles and flaws, as well as the other elves, then it makes a little bit more sense. I feel like it's a little clunky because it feels like a moment where she kind of just turned her brain off. And what sealed the deal for me was Elrond. Elrond's response when he makes it up there and he is just holding the thing, and you just see that look of acknowledgement between him and Galadriel, where it's like, yeah, like, we know, but, like, that for me is what made that okay, because it kind of smoothed over her not really making a lot of sense, like, with the way that they wrote her behaving, it just was weird. Her confronting Halbrand, who she thinks is literally Sauron, by herself in some obscure little place with, like, a tiny knife. I was just like, what is happening? Like, that makes no sense. He, like, transports her through all these different, I don't know what it was, illusions. I don't know. Was it real? Was it not real? I don't know. But she wakes up in a stream of water about the, you know, when Elrond picks her up, she's about to slit his throat. And you know, so like that whole little thing was weird. But it was like when that scene happened and when he got up there, like that little nonverbal communication that they had, kind of smoothed that all out for me, you know, of like, okay, they just wrote it weird. They wrote it in a way that I don't know why they did it like that, to be honest. I feel like they've shown that they could do things elegantly, like what they did in that scene. So I don't know what that was all about. Maybe it was about spectacle. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, so, you know, there's some things like that. I'd say for me, because this was a funner one for me, I'd say, so what was my ranking before? It was like 5. What did I say? It was like 5 and 6. It was like 6 and 5. I think it was 5. As far as my favorites, I think it was like 5, then 6,
And then 1, I feel
1,
like.
then 2.
Yeah.
And then it was like 7, 3, and 4, or something like that. I'd probably say, excuse me, this one is probably one of my favorite ones.
Same here.
Because it's like way more chaotic. I like chaotic things. Like I can't like there's no two ways around it. I love chaotic things. Some things that like they make just the right amount of like no sense to be wonderful. And like that's kind of what that like certain bits of that Gandalf thing was, where it was just like, yo, what? Just like one thing after another. It just hit me in all the right spots. So it may be it may be number 2 or number 3 for me. I just think episodes 5 and 6 were pretty strong episodes. Episode 5 in particular was, I think, solidly the strongest episode of the entire season. And it was like written at the right time, like in story development, and like it was written well. You got payoffs, you got setups, you got everything that you would look to have in something like at that part of that story, you know, of this story. So yeah, as an episode, I thought it was a pretty fun episode. And we got reveals, some things that we guessed before. You know, you had guessed way long ago that Halbrand may be Sauron. I guess the way when he came on the scene that the mysterious stranger dude was gonna be Gandalf. You know, like there are certain things that were in there that yeah. So I mean, so it was nice to see those things. I kind of agree with you, Tim. Like if you take out some of the maybe fanfare or fan service or whatever way you may want to try to like say it, it's like, why did they do it in this way as far as trying to do these little trick reveal thing at the end?
Yeah.
Especially when it came to who I'll say is Gandalf.
Yeah.
It is like, oh, you're Sauron. And it's like
after he
and
did
like,
all the things
nope.
Gandalf does. When he speaks, the room gets dark, like with Bilbo, he slams the ground, and the same thing happens to the wolves that happens to the Balrog with the staff, and then they show up and they're like, you're the bad guy. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And then it's like within the next like 20 minutes or so, then it's like, yeah, that's squashed. Nope. I'm good. Got him. So yeah, so I think that was like, yeah, that I agree with you, Tim. That was like a little bit of like,
we were like 2 steps away from him being like, D's nuts.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd say for the season as a whole, I probably would give it like a 7. And the reason for that is, and I'll say it this way. I give this season overall a 7. I believe that the that the acting for me was like a really, really strong 9.
Yeah, everyone did good.
Like, it was super great. And there were scenes, like, all across the board, the acting was great. And then there were scenes where it was at a whole nother level. And that, which was beautiful to see. Again, it's like these subtle details. A great example of that was in this episode, right at the end, right when we're seeing, this little acknowledgement of, like, you could tell they all kind of knew what they were doing. They probably should not be doing. But at the same time, like, you know what I mean? It's like, and it was all there. And they literally said nothing to each other. That's beautiful. Like that. And it's so hard to pull off. It's incredibly difficult to pull off. In actually writing that in the script and then bringing that to life with actors, and like that takes really great direction and really great acting to get that subtext. So, to me it was a really strong 9 in most parts, and like 10s in like some really elevated parts. And I feel like we saw a lot of those in the exchanges between Durin and Elrond. I think that's where we saw a lot of emotional work. Yeah, so that was great. I'd say as far as the writing goes, yeah, it's funny because it's like I feel what you're saying, Tim, about like, it's like I'm gonna tell these people like, yo, dude, cool show, but like your writing was like a 7, man. It was like a maybe even a 6, dude. Like, like, you know what I mean? I'm just some guy. But
that exists
like,
though, like really good eye candy where the writing is like, what's happening?
Yeah, so for me, that's my thing, is like, I feel like that the writing of the show, I'll say this, I feel like the writing of the show was inconsistent. And I feel like that's what really killed the show, unfortunately. I say killed. Yeah, I
7 out of 10.
I say killed.
7 out of 10. It's dead.
Yeah, no. But I feel like that's what really took the wind out of its sails, because I feel like they failed to deliver in pacing and in giving people a sense of completion when it came to certain arcs. Like I feel like they were really deliberate in some ways. They were very deliberate in obvious ways. And when it came to things that like weren't explicitly clear that like we're gonna bring closure to this, they didn't really care. That's kind of how it felt like to me. Cause like, again, I mean, I wasn't under the impression that like we were just not gonna see Arendelle and them again. I was not under the impression that I wasn't gonna see Isildur again. That's who the dude got lost, right? The son, that's his name. Yeah. I was not under the impression that like these things were going to happen. Like, now I can see with Durin and his wife, like us maybe not seeing them, because we talked about that like at the end of that episode of like, okay, yeah, it seems like they're not going to be doing anything for a long time. They kind of like settled like, okay, we're going to wait our time to do whatever. But for the most part, it's like, okay, what's going to happen next? The same thing with like Adar, right? I do kind of get it, like you were saying, Joseph, like, okay, sure, he landed, he's got his place or whatever now. And, all his little people are happy there, whatever. But like, at the same time, I don't know, to me, it just was like, oh, okay, like this is a beginning. That is something that I could see at like in this episode, like in the finale or whatever. You know what I mean? And where then you can see like, oh, there's going to be a face-off between him and Sauron. Like that is going to happen. Whether it is Sauron sees him off in the distance or whatever. Because with this, we see Sauron just like we see him but like we don't see him see them or see Adar or see like, you know, we don't see Adar see him. We don't see, so there's like no like explicit connection there between them in the final image of that, setting up that conflict. Sure, we know that they don't like each other or whatever. And that like obviously they have beef and they're going to like go to blows at some point. But like that isn't visually set up. Like it just looks like some hellscape and they're both in some generic place within that hellscape. And we don't know what Sauron's plan is going to be because he has nothing and nobody. Whether he's just going to walk in there, right? Because then it's like it brings up a lot of questions. Like, well, like why in the hell did he want or need Galadriel at all if he could just waltz in there and take it over anyway? And why? What was the whole point of the song and dance between him, Adar, and you know what I'm saying? Also the kind of stuff like where he's pretending. So I feel like that was kind of a missed opportunity again to tie things up. Like just because you're setting something up for something else doesn't mean then you just leave it completely hanging. And I think that that's something that we saw a lot. And I think that's why we felt like a lot of things kept dragging. Like, why is it taking so long to get to this? It's because like there were certain things that just weren't getting tied up. Like you can get them from here to there, and like that doesn't mean that there's like no stop in between. You know what I mean? Like if your hero is going on a journey, they're hitting different, you know, they're hitting different points in development along the way. And that's fine. Yeah, I don't know if it was like a too many characters kind of thing. If it was a resource thing, a runtime thing, you know, yeah, anything can happen with production. Anything can happen with production. I'm really curious to know what the scripts actually looked like, and like what was actually in them, and what things may have been changed. But yeah, overall though, like I said, it was, I had a good time while I was watching it. But during the times I didn't enjoy it, I really didn't enjoy it. That was the one thing that was the bummer for me, was that like I really, really wanted to enjoy it the whole way through. But like when there were times when they would just drag, they would drag. And it made it so tough because there was so much cool material there. And it's not even sticking, as far as we know, like it's not even sticking to the like the canon, so to speak. Like it's not even, there are certain little deviations here and there. And even within what they've created and taken creative liberties with, they have a lot of really cool things. And it was just really frustrating because oftentimes it felt like we spent more time doing things, we spent more time with things with that were less nutrient dense than like the other things, just for the sake of like exposition or something like that. Because I would have loved it if we had more time to see, I'm gonna call him Gandalf again, but like if we had more time to see him, like, I don't know, like not fall on the ground every 3 seconds and, you know, just do something. Again, I do understand kind of like the poetry that they were trying to create with that last episode in mirroring the two of their stories unfolding at the same time. I do understand that. And so the context in which his development unfolded, because they wanted it to end in that way, where it was revealed he was good, not bad, and Halbrand was bad, not good. So I see that, but I feel like there were more ways that we could have had fun with magic in this magical place. Yes, there was a lot of talking. I didn't necessarily have too much of a problem with that. That's not my biggest gripe. But I think that they just set up a lot of things, and unfortunately, they allocated a lot of time to things that, again, just weren't as nutrient dense as the material that they had created themselves. And I'm not exactly sure why. I don't know why. So I'm not making a value judgment per se on the writing. I'm not making a value judgment on the writing because I don't know why they made some of the decisions that they made, why they put certain beats within certain parts of the stories and not in others. I just know that because of those choices, it made, honestly, like, large parts of the story feel, I don't want to say useless, but like there wasn't real resolution, like, for certain things. And so it's kind of disappointing in a lot of aspects. I found myself being disappointed with certain with certain things. It's like, oh, okay. Or like when it goes like 4 episodes, you're like, oh wait, what's going on with the whole ring situation? Like, oh wait, whatever happened to Arendir? Oh wait, whatever happened to, and it's just like, and it seemed a lot of time like they wrote it like that, where it's like, oh, right, we haven't had him on in like 4 episodes. What have you been doing in that time? Right. And I know that's not how it happened, which is why I'm saying, like, I'm curious to know, like, the actual script and, like, what happened there in translation, because I know they didn't do it haphazardly like that. But yeah, I mean, would I watch this season again? No. This probably isn't going to be a show that I rewatch. Like you were saying, Tim, I'm not much of a like show rewatcher.
Yeah.
Like, I have a certain select, like, there's certain select shows that I will like rewatch to death. But this, I have tremendous respect for it, tremendous respect for the artistry that went into it, a lot of the hard work that went into it, the beautiful acting, directing, lighting, shooting, editing, everything, from beginning to end of that process that they went through. I have a lot of respect for that. And I know that there are probably things that they did and developed behind the scenes that we won't know about for a while, because some of it is probably proprietary at this point. And I just know I probably won't be coming back to it. I would watch a second season. But to be honest, I probably would not watch a second season alone. Like,
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I just, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that, like, I don't have, like, I have interest in the story. I don't know if I have interest in the show.
I think for me, it's like I would watch, as it stands right now, I would watch the show by myself when it's done.
I see. Yeah.
Like, I don't think I would have watched season 1 if I didn't watch it with you guys.
Yeah.
I think I would have waited and just been like, I'll just catch it when it's done. Like, why get invested?
I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that.
I'll just start with my score. Because I was looking through my 11 out of 10. Yeah. Best show of the year. No, that goes to House of the Dragon. Like, it's not even done. It's so damn good. I love that show, especially last week. Last week had the best episode yet. 2 more to go. But this show, I went to my IMDb, because what I do, I rate whatever episode or movie. Yeah.
Oh, you rate the episodes individually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I'll rate the entire show. I'll wait to do that.
That reminds me, I got to move Better Call Saul from a 9 to a 10.
Bro, that show's perfect. Love that show. But obviously, this show isn't perfect. I will say that before I give my score. But I think I was wrestling with it. And it's still something that could change over time because I personally am somebody who likes to rewatch things because I may digest it or see it in a very different light. But I only do that with certain things because of time, and also there's so much out there when it's like, should I rewatch this episode or should I watch the new House of the Dragon episode or the new Cobra Kai that I'm still like a month behind? Like, there's just a lot out there. But honestly, I would say over half of these episodes I would rewatch. I would. And I'm going to with my wife because I told myself I'm just going to wait till they're all done. That way we can just binge them together. And I looked at IMDb. I gave a lot of 8s, some 7s, and officially 2 9s to 2 episodes that I love.
I want to know if I can guess which ones they are.
I bet you could. I bet you could guess. And this show I give it an 8. I think it's really, really good. I don't think it's nowhere near the 10s of Lord of the Rings, the original trilogy.
Yeah.
But I had to really think about it, you know, like I had to like throw away like other people's opinions or you know, oh, but the pacing, because a lot of people say like the first half is really slow, which I agree to a fault. Because even when I said that, like episodes 1 through 4 do have more issues than the second half, I feel like, especially with writing and pacing. And sometimes it's just slow. But honestly, majority of the slow I actually liked because it was character development that I was really intrigued with. And for some people, it's going to either not be good character development or it's just going to be boring. And obviously, to each their own. Everyone has their own journey, but I had to like really think about it. Like, what was my experience? And I enjoyed each episode in its own right. I think other episodes were obviously way better than others. Like comparing episode 6 and 8 to episode 7, episode 3, even episode 2. They're very different quality when you compare them to episode 6 or 8. Because I think 6 is a great battle episode.
Those are the two I was thinking have got to be it. Because you almost cried. You almost wait. I'm sorry. Wait, is this week 8? This week.
Yeah,
this week's 8. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was thinking of 6 and 7 because of the way you almost cried at the last week.
Oh, that's an episode.
Okay, so I had one right.
It's funny enough. That one is the one I gave a 7, even though it has one of my favorite character moments. I felt like that was such a right after episode 6, like a huge halt. Just like gotta put on the brakes. Speaking of like the engines,
I would argue that the
brakes
kind of screeched at the end of episode 6 itself, but
I love the ending. I love the ending of episode 6.
Episode 6. Did you see the same episode 6 I saw?
Yeah. Mordor? Mount Doom?
Yeah. Where the text burns away.
No, that's 7, bro. That's episode 7.
I thought
that's right. That was the last episode.
Yeah. Episode 6 is when the smoke and flames Galadriel, where the freaking old dude does the Indiana Jones. Yeah. Okay, that ending got me. Okay, yeah. Episode 7 is the weird text thing. That to me is one of the weakest episodes. I will say that. Even though it's funny enough, I enjoy 5 through 8 more than 1 through 4.
I'm thinking
7 is.
I'm thinking of the war one and the one where you almost cried because of Durin.
Yeah, that's episode 7.
Right.
Yep,
we're good.
That one, but episode 8. I think that's also one of the best too. I agree with you, Richard. I think it's, and I said this before too. I said it's not about how you start; it's about how you finish.
We say that a lot lately, but we're always talking about shit.
I will say this too. Speaking of endings, I just finished She-Hulk, and what a steaming pie! I can say it now. That show is like a 4.5 out of 10. That is the worst Disney Plus show. Yeah, Disney Plus, not just MCU. Disney Plus. You suck, She-Hulk.
Yo,
oh my god!
When I saw you say that, I was like, yo,
dude. Like they're like, we can be fourth wall breaking, and I'm like, that doesn't mean you're good. That doesn't mean you're a good character. God, fix her. There's actually a couple things that I did chuckle at. I don't want to say I hate the show entirely, because there were some moments. There was something interesting that they did with Kevin Feige. all I'll say for the finale. It was actually creative. Other than that, it's a big steeping pile of horse poo-poo.
I just hope Kevin Feige is cast in Deadpool 3. That would be great.
They were this close of doing that with She-Hulk finale. That's all I'll say. They were this close. It was interesting. I was very curious where they were going. It has to do with fourth wall breaking.
Like Kevin Feige should be an important character in Deadpool 3.
He's like, I'm the reason why this is happening, Snitch. And Ryan Reynolds.
The Spider-Man 90s cartoon actually did something like that. Spider-Man got like... It was in like the series finale. He got sucked into a dimension where in that dimension, he's a comic book character created by Stan Lee. And Stan Lee voices himself. And he's like, Spider-Man! What are you doing here?
They were this close of doing something like that, which it makes sense for her character because in the comic book she does do a lot of fourth wall breaking. But man, they got to fix that character. But yeah, anyway, She-Hulk, watch it at your own discretion if you want to get caught up in the MCU.
All right.
But this show, man, I had a great time with it. It had a lot more ups than downs, but it still had its downs. I think the pacing, did fall short with certain characters in the first half. But it picked up a lot, especially in episode 5 for me, was really when I started to love the show. And then 6, I even loved it more. 7, I was like, okay, we're going back to that same little bit boring pacing, but I still like these characters enough to watch it through, like Elrond and Durin, and their beautiful chemistry. And then episode 8, I think, was a solid finale. Solid finale. I think there were some issues though with the script. I'm good, and I do kind of agree with you too, Tim. Where here's the spoon, here comes the choo-choo train. We're just making sure. I do somewhat agree. I'm not going to say fully because I think I understand why they were trying to go for that, because granted, there are some audiences that haven't seen Lord of the Rings and they're like, a wizard? Whoa. And for us, it's like, like the moths. Literally, he was about to say I'm Gandalf, but instead he said I'm good. Like, we get it. So that's why I say I somewhat agree, but I feel like they're trying to cater to that audience that might not be familiar, but that doesn't mean I entirely like it. But I do somewhat agree with you where there are some nostalgic moments that are meant to feel nostalgic, but then it teeters way too heavy-handed. But I do appreciate the man that's playing Gandalf, because even though they didn't say like, hey, I'm Gandalf, but we all know he is. They basically said it.
Today he did.
He said I'm good. I really love the actor. I think they chose a great actor that is portraying, to me at least, he is killing it as a young Ian McKellen Gandalf. Like the way he walks, the way he presents himself now in like the last 20 minutes, the way he just pronounces words. I'm just like, dude, I could literally just listen to this man talk for an hour. I want to like know more about this guy. Bro, how is it like being at the stars? Like, tell me about that. Tell me about your journey up there, bro. And now that he's going to go on this arc with Nori, I'm very, very excited to see that. It gives me, right when he was saying journey and adventure, it just made my heart warm. I'm like, yes, I love this.
Did I miss a plot point in this episode? Because there's something I don't understand is why the angry math student, I don't know what else to call them, the
mystics or something. I heard that's what they're called, maybe
Sauron's followers. Why did they think that he was Sauron?
That's something I'd be curious to know too, because the whole fake out too. I don't know why they thought it was him. Because technically, isn't Sauron and Gandalf and Saruman, all of them, they're all kind of interconnected in the sense of being almost like the same type of being? I don't know for sure. but I thought I heard something kind of like that.
So
where
like
Sauron,
they might have mixed up the signs or something.
the sort, because like honestly, like if to me I see him as the three wise men, where they're like, "There's the Star of David. Let us follow it to find baby Jesus," instead baby Gandalf. I know, crazy analogy,
Looking for
but it's
baby
like
Satan.
Right,
baby Satan. I mean, honestly, and I feel like they tracked him through like the source of the staff, or they felt the energy of a very intense presence.
So,
But it led them to the wrong person, and really it was halbrand that they needed. Obviously, they're screwed. They're dead. They're gone. No longer needed. But I think that could be the reason.
Which is hilarious in and of itself.
Oh, that
Like,
they
they
literally
built him up
failed.
in like 3 episodes, and then he was just like, "I'm good now. Bye."
I think it's honestly it's a little bit bold to do that, and I kind of liked it because it's like, dang, these people literally had this one job.
Yeah.
And they fricked it all up. It was like, oh shoot, it's the wrong guy. Frick. It's the good guy, not the bad guy. I really appreciate that. I think it was very very entertaining, that whole sequence in the woods. Get the stabbing of the foot. I love that. I thought that guy is like, he was the MVP of that whole sequence. It's a little bit weird how he died. I know I mentioned that earlier. I was like, is this guy like, did he just like eat some shrooms? Some bad shrooms? What's going on, buddy? Oh no, he died like that. That was a choice. I blame the director for that. I don't blame him. I'm like, director said cut. He was like, we're good. That's a great death scene.
Yeah.
Then that's it, buddy. You're good.
Just
you can go
kind
home.
of fall asleep, and we'll wrap it there.
Just like move your eyes a lot and just yeah, okay. Perfect. That's next to The Dark Knight Rises, Talia. Oh, cool death. Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, I don't think it was that rough, but
oh yeah, that was bad.
I mean, I remember him saying something along the lines of like, I'm peacing out. Yeah. Something along those lines.
I need to rewatch it because I might have missed it. You're right. He probably did say something, but I need to rewatch that scene. It just was weird. Like all of a sudden, I'm like, bro, what's?
Yeah, because he wasn't even laying down. He was sitting up with them,
just sitting up like this. He's like,
yeah. No one was looking
position.
back to him. No one was like, oh, yada yada, like, oh, gathering around him. They're just looking forward, and then that's it. We don't see his body. Yeah. We don't see no burial, no nothing. They all just talk like nothing. Like, let's go.
And you would feel like there would be a little bit more emotional impact to that. That's probably why, to me, it didn't like, it just felt weird. I'm like, I would feel like their leader who died should at least have, unless that's not how the Harfoots work. They're like, hey, that's just how traveling goes. They're dead. We're still moving. But at the same time, I feel like they have a saying where they're like, we do this together. We're all in this together. And I'm like, well, but I guess not until death. So,
and that's what I mean about like it's like these arcs. There's these like weird spots where it just does not feel complete. Where it's like, oh, okay, I guess that's the last I'm seeing of them. Like, okay,
yeah, I can agree with that too, in the sense of like there are a little bit of inconsistencies with some characterizations or ways of life. But at the end of the day, though, I really did enjoy this show. I think, yeah, like I said, the pacing was a little bit of a struggle, especially in episodes 2 and 3. But the genuine moments between Elrond and Durin, the character growth for Galadriel, for her taking up the task for her brother, and being befriended and then betrayed by Halbrand, which is something I've been wanting, and I'm so glad we got it. And to kind of touch on the whole, is this guy Sauron? Just kidding. He's not Sauron. He's the good guy. This guy's actually Sauron. Honestly, it got me. And I really kind of think it was a daring, creative choice. And it's going to hit a lot of people in either a great way, or they're either going to love it or they're going to hate it. Especially like the hardcore lore people. Oh gosh, where'd Tim go? Oh no. Tim, what happened to my buddy?
That's just my friendly way of disagreeing.
Oh my gosh. For me, man, I liked it. It was entertaining. It had me on the edge of my seat, honestly. I was going back and forth. I literally was like, shoot, am I wrong? Okay, let's just see what happens. Shut up, Joseph. Quiet your mind. Just watch. And I couldn't. I'm like, dude, I just want to know what's going on. But then as my thoughts started to permeate even more, I'm like, you know what? In lore, Sauron needs to manipulate them. Yeah, it's halbrand. And like right in that moment, I'm like, yeah, shut up, good guy. Like, I know you're actually the good guy. Shut up, actually, mystic people. He's actually the good guy. You're just dumb and bad at your job. I don't know why it worked for me on an entertainment scale, on a building of momentum, building of tension. It just worked. And for me, one thing that I've always kind of like gone by with shows or movies, entertainment, I know it's going to be a little cheesy, but this is just how I see it, or how I feel it, actually. If a show or a movie makes you feel something in a positive manner, because obviously you can feel something in a negative manner, but if it makes you feel something, to me, the show did its job. And for me, this show gave me a lot of feelings. Like if there's one way, and there's many ways I can summarize how I feel about this, that's how I felt about this show. It gave me a lot of varieties of experiences, emotions, and it, at the end of the day, I felt it. And I feel like that's what entertainment is. If a song doesn't make you get moved by the way the strings are going, the orchestra is just carrying its voices. Like if you don't feel it, they didn't do their job. They didn't do their job. And at the end of the day, entertainment is made to entertain you. At the end of the day, for me, the show entertained the hell out of me. I love the score. Speaking of score, the score is fantastic. Bear McCreary, who's done scores for God of War and many other projects, God of War, the video game, he's great at this. He really, to me, it felt like I was immersed in the world of Lord of the Rings. And speaking of being immersed, the CGI is fantastic. We were talking about that for a bit, and it's flawless. It's the most beautiful TV show I have seen to date. I can say that now for a fact after watching all 8 episodes, and consistency is very important for them when it comes to that quality. They earned every penny of that. They deserve all the Emmy nominations when it comes to their effort in CGI. And whatever thing, we were talking about that too, like what type of technical feat did they do to achieve this quality? And people are going to look at that years to come, be like, we need to be like this. Disney. No shade, Kevin Feige. I really am just honestly I'm amazed by what they were able to pull off visually too. But yeah, at the end of the day, I just felt something, and it moved me. I almost teared up a couple times. It was sweeping, the epic shots in episode 6 with the stunning horses, real live horses. People had to train for that. A lot of work. Totally worth it. Just for that, like 20 to 30 seconds of just badassery. I love you, Amazon. Thank you for giving me that. I felt something during those moments. And yeah, it was a solid conclusion. Solid episode, solid show. I'm grateful with how they ended it. I think I even said that too for my prediction of where it could end, is either at least they're talking about the rings or they're being forged. And we got it. And to tag along with what you were saying, Richard, where the best moments in a show or a movie is when characters don't have to say a word and you know exactly what they're feeling. You know exactly what they're saying without saying. And Elrond and Durin are the kings of that in this show. But another great example was, the ending with all 3 of them, Celebrimbor, Elrond, and Galadriel. Because the rings just brought this different atmospheric bliss to them. But it was so deceiving. It was so... Honestly, it was beautiful to watch. And the first moment that we got of that was with Celebrimbor. I'm like, yes, this is what I've been waiting for. Something to give us like the worthy title of Rings of Power. And I'm like, it's right there. It's deceiving them all already. I love that. And I think honestly, I'm not going to say it's a perfect ending, but it's a great ending for what this show is called. And to hook people, I think a lot of people are going to look forward to season 2, but there's going to be a lot of people divided overall with this show, no matter what, whether they're, you know, man babies who cry because there's a black person in a show. Or
Wait, there is?
What? Yeah, right. Or they just are way too committed to, they're married to the lore and they will die for it, which I understand, you know, like when people like literally just flip off the lore, I have an issue with that. I don't think, at least in my understanding, I feel like, obviously this is just me. I'm not going to say I read everything and know everything. I don't feel like I got a feeling of these writers hate the lore and want to flip everything over and piss fans off. I honestly didn't get that vibe at all. Yeah, there's going to be some changes, but I don't think their intention is to do that. And for somebody to be like, yeah, I feel like they ruined everything. I can maybe try to understand somebody, because it's like, man, you've lived and breathed this. Like, you, ever since you were 10 years old, you were reading the books, and now you see this and it's a huge disappointment. It's like, man, I get it. There's so much that they can do with this lore. But I don't know. At the end of the day, I had this feeling where I'm like, no, I feel like the showrunners really tried to do their best. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And please don't forget to be blessed.